Today, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to get started with GitHub Actions. By the end of this video, you will know how to use GitHub Actions and create your first automated workflow. Hey, I'm Kedasha and I'm so excited you're here with me today. Let's talk about how you can use GitHub Actions to automate common tasks in your developer workflow, like running vulnerability scans, tests, creating releases, and even reminding your team of important updates. GitHub Actions is a continuous integration, continuous delivery, or CI/CD, and automation platform built right into GitHub. You'll often hear people call these action workflows or just workflows. It allows you to automate repetitive tasks and deployment processes using YAML files stored in your repository. Action workflows are triggered by GitHub events like pushes, pull requests, or schedules, and they run in a virtual environment. Let's take a look at a few terms you'll see when working with GitHub Actions. We won't go through all the terminology, but these are the essentials: events, hosted runners, and jobs. An event is a specific activity that triggers a workflow. For example, pushing code, opening a pull request, or creating an issue. A runner is a virtual machine that executes jobs in a workflow. GitHub provides hosted runners, or you can set up your own self-hosted runner. A job is a set of steps that's executed within the same runner. Each step is either a shell command or a pre-built action from the GitHub Marketplace. Now, workflows get triggered by events in a repository. This can be a pull request, merging a branch, or even opening an issue. When the event fires and a workflow exists that responds to that event, GitHub spins up one or more jobs that execute on a runner. This is essentially how a GitHub Action workflow works. When you first go to the Actions tab and click on the New Workflow button, you'll see a suggested set of starter workflows that you can use. If you click on one of your suggested actions, you'll see three main sections that you need to know when building an action workflow: the name section, which describes what your workflow does, the on section, which defines what triggers it, and the job section, which is where the actual work happens. Learn more about GitHub Actions by going to GitHub Skills and completing the Hello GitHub Actions challenge. You can also read the blog post that accompanies this episode at gh.io/gfbactions. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's look at how to actually build a workflow. To follow along, head over to this repository link and clone it to your machine. Then go to the Action Start branch. I'm bringing in Glenda to build this workflow with us step by step.
GitHub Actions uses YAML syntax to define workflows. Each workflow is stored as a .yaml file in a special .github/workflows directory in your repository. So I'm going to click into the .github folder at the root of the repository, and then into the workflows folder inside of it. Let's create a workflow that auto-labels new issues created in our repository. When creating workflow files, use the scripted names that tell you what they do at a glance, like build and test.yaml or securityscanner.yaml. So let's give our workflow a name. I will call it label new issue.yaml. And then I will add the name section to start the YAML file. Now we need to decide what events will trigger it. GitHub has tons of trigger options reflected in the documentations, so choose based on what you're building. Maybe you want to run tests when someone opens a pull request, or scan for security issues when a branch gets merged. In our case, we will use the issues trigger, then add the activity type open. This way, whenever a new GitHub issue is open, it will add labels to it. Now we get to the good stuff, the job section where the actual work happens. The first thing we'll do is give our job a title and choose what type of machine runs it. GitHub provides hosted runners with different versions of Ubuntu, Windows, and macOS. Let's call this job label-issues and run it on Ubuntu latest. This tells GitHub to grab a machine from their pool of Ubuntu runners using the latest version available. We also need to add right permissions here so that Action can add the label, so let's add permissions issues right. When we use the permissions key within the jobs, all the actions and run commands within the job gain the access rights specified. Now let's add the steps. This is where we define what actually happens in the job. You will see two main keywords here, uses and run. When you see uses, that's pulling a pre-built action from the GitHub Marketplace, such as checking out your code or setting up Node.js. Those are open source, reusable actions that handle common tasks so that you don't have to write everything from scratch. When you see run, that's executing a command or a script. It can be a simple one-liner like this one or a multi-line script. The next step is for us to configure our environment variables. We'll use the gh_token, gh_repo, and number variables that are automatically set. This means GitHub Actions will automatically know which values to use for those variables based on those secrets and GitHub context. Let's add gh_token, secrets.github_token, then issue_number, github.event.issue.number, and finally, let's add label, which will be the list of labels we want to add. The labels must exist in the repo for this to work properly. We will add the triage label. And this completes our first workflow. Putting it all together, this workflow tells GitHub Actions that when a new issue is open, we want to run it on Ubuntu latest and add the triage label to the issue. The GitHub Actions workflow syntax gives us a lot of flexibility, but it is a good practice to keep things simple as possible when starting out. Let's test out the workflow we just created by pushing it to GitHub, creating a PR, merging it to the main branch, and creating a new issue in that repository. Let's open a new issue. We will call it Test Workflow and click Create. Within seconds, you will see GitHub Actions pop up adding the label triage. Let's go to the Actions tab to see the actual workflow run. Looking on the Actions tab on the left-hand side, we have a Label New Issues workflow. When we click into it, we will see the job label issues, and when we click into the job, we will see the steps used to complete it. We can run and rerun Actions workflows from this tab. And if you need to pause it temporarily, you can disable it directly from the Action tab instead of deleting the file. The Actions tab is where you will go to see and manage all of your workflows. You can check deployments, runners, metrics, performance, and cache from this view. You can also view and edit your workflow file from this tab. Congratulations, you have successfully built your very first GitHub Actions workflow.
Thanks so much, Glenda, for showing us how to build our first GitHub Actions workflow and also how to test it on GitHub. Now, GitHub Actions can do a lot more than just label your issues. You can create actions to publish packages, greet new contributors, build and test your code, and even run security checks. Keep learning about GitHub Actions by going to our documentation and reading the blog post that accompanies this episode. I hope you found this video helpful. Remember to subscribe to GitHub's YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our future uploads, and share with a dev friend who could use this knowledge. Happy coding!